the invisible addiction destroying your motivation. Your laziness is probably not laziness. That's the part nobody tells you. Most people wake up already tired, already distracted, already mentally weak before the day even begins. They think they need more motivation, more discipline, more willpower. But researchers who studied dopamine and behavioral patterns discovered something disturbing. The modern brain is being trained to avoid effort. Every notification, every short video, every endless scroll, every tiny hit of instant pleasure is teaching your brain one dangerous lesson. Effort is unnecessary, and after enough repetition, your mind starts reacting to difficult tasks like they're a threat. That's why you feel exhausted before studying. That's why you delay important work for hours. That's why simple tasks suddenly feel heavy. Your brain has been conditioned to chase stimulation instead of progress. What scares most people is that this process is almost invisible. At first, it looks harmless. A few minutes on your phone, one quick distraction, one small delay. But over time, scientists observed that constant exposure to fast rewards changes how the brain responds to boredom, focus, patience, and effort itself. The result? You stop controlling your attention. Your impulses start controlling you. And the worst part is that modern distractions are designed to keep you trapped. Tech companies study human behavior, dopamine response, attention cycles, and emotional triggers to make your brain addicted to stimulation. They are competing for your focus every second of the day. Meanwhile, your goals are competing against entertainment engineered by thousands of experts. That's why motivation disappears so fast. That's why discipline feels painful. That's why your brain keeps searching for escape, even when you truly want to change your life. But here's the dangerous truth most people never realize. Your brain can also be reprogrammed. Researchers discovered that specific behavioral triggers can interrupt procrastination patterns almost instantly. Certain mental techniques can bypass hesitation before it grows. Some methods are so effective that they make action feel automatic. And once you understand what's really happening inside your mind, laziness stops feeling like a personality trait and starts looking like a system failure that can be fixed. In this video, you'll discover 7 advanced tricks capable of forcing your brain out of passive mode and back into action. Some of these methods feel almost unfair because of how quickly they destroy mental resistance. But one specific technique changes everything, because the final trick completely changes how your brain responds to effort itself. The 5-second override that kills procrastination. There's a small window inside your brain where procrastination is still weak. Most people lose the battle during those first seconds. Researchers who study human behavior observed something fascinating. The brain does not create resistance all at once. It happens in stages. The moment you think about doing something difficult, your mind immediately starts calculating discomfort, effort, uncertainty, and emotional pain. And if you stay inactive for too long, the resistance grows stronger every second. That's why you can spend an entire hour mentally preparing to do something that only takes 10 minutes. Your brain is not trying to help you succeed. It's trying to conserve energy. From an evolutionary perspective, humans were designed to avoid unnecessary effort whenever possible, thousands of years ago. Conserving energy increased survival. But in the modern world, this survival mechanism became a trap. Now your brain treats studying like danger. It treats discipline like discomfort. It treats effort like something to escape from. And the longer you wait, the more convincing the excuses become. I'll start later. I'm not in the mood. I need more motivation. I'll do it tomorrow. But high performers discovered something powerful. If you move before the emotional resistance fully activates, the brain has less time to stop you. That's where the 5-second override changes everything. The moment you feel hesitation, you immediately interrupt the pattern physically. Stand up. Open the document. Put your hands on the keyboard. Walk toward the task before your brain finishes creating excuses. Action must happen before emotion expands. This sounds simple, but scientists studying habit formation explain that movement changes mental state faster than thinking does. Your brain starts adapting to whatever behavior you initiate first. Not the intention, not the plan, the movement. This is why disciplined people often look emotionally different from everyone else. They are not waiting to feel ready. They trained themselves to act before their emotions take control, and once action begins, something strange happens. The task that felt impossible 2 minutes ago suddenly feels manageable, because starting is usually the hardest part. Researchers observe that anticipation creates more stress than the activity itself. Your brain exaggerates discomfort before effort begins. But once momentum starts, resistance weakens dramatically. That's why this technique feels almost unfair. You are not fighting procrastination with motivation. You are attacking it before it fully exists. But the next problem is even more dangerous, because most people are trying to build discipline while their brain is chemically addicted to distraction. Your brain is rewarding distraction like a drug. Your brain was never designed to handle this much stimulation. That's the real problem. A few decades ago, boredom was normal. Silence was normal. Waiting was normal. But now, the average person consumes more stimulation in a single day than the human brain evolved to process comfortably. And researchers started noticing something alarming. The more instant pleasure your brain receives, the less tolerance it develops for effort. That's why normal activities now feel painfully slow. Reading feels exhausting. Studying feels unbearable. Working feels mentally heavy. Even simple concentration starts feeling uncomfortable after a few minutes. Not because you're weak, because your dopamine system has been overloaded. Scientists who study behavioral addiction explain that every fast reward creates a spike of anticipation inside the brain. Social media, short videos, notifications, gaming, junk food, endless scrolling. All of them train your mind to expect immediate stimulation with almost zero effort. And after enough repetition, your brain starts comparing everything to those artificial rewards. Real progress loses the competition because real growth is slow. Discipline is repetitive. Learning requires patience. Results take time. Meanwhile, distraction gives instant emotional relief in seconds. This is why procrastination often feels automatic. Your brain is not choosing what is important. It is choosing what produces the fastest reward. And the scary part is that this process slowly changes your emotional baseline. Researchers observed that excessive stimulation reduces sensitivity to normal pleasure over time. Things that once felt satisfying begin to feel dull. Motivation drops, focus weakens. Mental fatigue increases. That's why many people feel tired even after doing nothing productive all day. Their brain stayed overstimulated for hours. And just like addiction, the cycle keeps growing. The more stimulation you consume, the harder focus becomes. The harder focus becomes, the more distractions you seek. And eventually your brain starts rejecting effort completely. But there's something most people never realize. Your dopamine system can recover surprisingly fast when stimulation decreases. Researchers observed that when people temporarily reduce instant rewards, the brain slowly rebuilds sensitivity to effort, focus, and delayed gratification. Tasks that once felt impossible start feeling normal again. That's why highly disciplined people protect their attention aggressively. They understand that focus is not only mental, it's chemical. Every distraction is training your brain. Every habit is rewiring your reward system. Every repeated action is shaping what your mind will crave tomorrow. And the next technique sounds almost insane at first, because instead of avoiding discomfort, you're going to use discomfort itself to destroy laziness from the inside out. The micropain technique that forces action. Most people spend their entire lives trying to avoid discomfort. That's exactly why they stay stuck. Researchers who study behavior patterns discovered that the human brain constantly moves away from anything associated with emotional tension, uncertainty, frustration, or effort. The problem is that modern comfort became so excessive that even small challenges now feel mentally overwhelming. Your brain starts treating basic effort like suffering. A difficult conversation feels unbearable. A workout feels exhausting before it even starts. Studying for 30 minutes feels like torture. Waking up early feels painful. And little by little, comfort becomes your default addiction. But scientists observed something extremely interesting about the brain. Discomfort tolerance works like a muscle. The more you voluntarily expose yourself to controlled discomfort, the less power resistance has over your mind. This is where the micropain technique becomes dangerous in the best possible way. Instead of waiting to feel motivated, you deliberately train yourself to do small, uncomfortable actions every single day. Cold water at the end of a shower, standing up immediately when the alarm rings, sitting in silence without touching your phone, finishing one difficult task before consuming entertainment, taking action while mentally uncomfortable instead of escaping it. These actions look small. Neurologically, they are massive, because every time you stop obeying comfort impulses, your brain receives a new message. I am still capable of acting under discomfort. And that changes your identity faster than motivation ever could. Researchers from behavioral psychology fields observe that confidence is not built by positive thinking alone. It grows when the brain collects evidence that you can handle resistance without running away. That's why disciplined people often appear mentally stronger under pressure. They train their nervous system to stop panicking when effort appears. Meanwhile, most people unconsciously train the opposite pattern. The second boredom appears, they grab the phone. The second stress appears, they escape. The second discomfort appears, they delay action. And after years repeating this cycle, the brain becomes fragile. That's why this technique works so fast. You are rebuilding mental endurance through tiny acts of controlled resistance, not giant motivational speeches, not endless planning. Direct neurological conditioning, and something strange starts happening after a few days. Your brain stops reacting to effort with the same emotional intensity. Tasks feel lighter. Action feels faster. Resistance loses strength, because the mind adapts to whatever standard you repeat consistently. But there's still a massive trap destroying almost everyone's progress. Most people still believe motivation is the answer, and that belief quietly keeps them trapped for years. Why motivation always disappears after a few days? Motivation is one of the biggest psychological traps ever created, because it feels powerful in the beginning. You watch an inspiring video, you feel emotionally charged. You promise yourself that this time will be different. For a few days, you wake up focused, disciplined, ready to change your life. Then suddenly everything collapses. Your energy drops. Your consistency disappears. Old habits return. And you start wondering what's wrong with you. But researchers who study behavior and dopamine patterns explain that this is completely predictable. Your brain was never designed to sustain emotional intensity forever. Motivation is temporary by nature. It's an emotional spike, not a stable operating system. That's why relying on motivation is dangerous. You're building your future on a feeling that naturally fades with repetition. The brain adapts quickly to emotional excitement. What felt powerful on Monday feels normal by Friday. This is called emotional adaptation. The brain constantly normalizes stimulation over time. That's why the same song becomes less exciting after hearing it repeatedly. The same motivational content loses impact after a while. The same emotional promise stops creating urgency. And most people mistake this adaptation for failure. They think, I lost my drive. I'm becoming lazy again. I'm not disciplined enough. But the real issue is much deeper. They built action around emotion instead of identity. Highly disciplined people do not wake up every day feeling motivated. Researchers observing elite performers noticed that many successful individuals operate through automatic behavioral systems. Instead of emotional dependence, they remove negotiation. They train routines until action becomes normal whether emotions cooperate or not. That's the difference. Motivated people act when they feel good. Disciplined people act regardless of how they feel. And once you understand this, your entire perspective changes. Because waiting for motivation is secretly teaching your brain that emotions are in control. Every time you delay action until you feel ready, you strengthen emotional dependence. But every time you act, despite resistance, you weaken Italiano. That's why discipline creates freedom, while motivation creates instability. One depends on mood, the other depends on standards. Researchers studying habit formation explain that repeated behavior slowly rewires identity. The brain starts accepting patterns as part of who you are, not something you try to do, something you naturally do. And this leads to one of the most overlooked truths about productivity. Your environment is shaping your behavior far more than your motivation ever will. Most people are trying to build discipline inside environments designed to destroy focus, the environment hack that makes laziness impossible. Most people think discipline is a personality trait. Researchers studying human behavior discovered something very different. Your environment silently controls far more of your actions than you realize. The scary part is that most distractions do not feel dangerous because they became normal. Your phone on the table, notifications in the background, open tabs everywhere, constant noise, easy access to entertainment. Your brain absorbs all of it, even when you think you're re-ignoring Italiano, and every small distraction drains mental energy. Scientists observe that attention works like a limited resource. Every interruption forces the brain to constantly switch focus, and each switch creates cognitive fatigue. That's why many people feel mentally exhausted after doing almost nothing important all day. Their attention was fragmented for hours. This is why disciplined people obsess over environment control. Not because they have stronger willpower, because they understand something most people ignore. The easier distraction becomes, the harder discipline feels. Behavior research has found that humans naturally follow the path of least resistance. Your brain automatically chooses whatever requires less friction in the moment. So if junk food is visible, you eat it more. If your phone is nearby, you check it constantly. If entertainment is one click away, focus becomes harder. If your workspace feels chaotic, your mind follows the same pattern. Your environment is programming behavior whether you notice it or not. That's why one of the fastest ways to destroy laziness is removing unnecessary decisions from your day. Prepare the workspace before starting. Keep distractions physically distant. Silence notifications completely. Make productive actions easier to access than entertainment. This sounds simple, but researchers observed that physical distance dramatically changes impulsive behavior. Even moving distractions a few meters away reduces automatic consumption because the brain hates extra effort. Small friction changes behavior massively. And here's where it becomes powerful. When your environment supports focus instead of distraction, discipline stops feeling like constant. Your brain starts flowing toward productive behavior automatically because the path became easier. This is exactly why some people stay productive almost effortlessly, while others constantly battle procrastination. One is relying only on motivation, the other redesigned the system itself. And there's another psychological trick. High performers use that feels almost like cheating because they discovered how to start difficult tasks without triggering the brain's fear response at all. The fake start method used by high performers. One of the biggest lies your brain tells you is this: if I start, I'll suffer. That's why so many people delay action for hours before doing something. That often becomes easy after a few minutes. Researchers studying procrastination discovered that the brain exaggerates the emotional cost of effort before the task begins. Your mind creates tension, pressure, fear of failure, mental fatigue, and discomfort long before any real work happens. And the bigger the task feels emotionally, the stronger the avoidance becomes. That's why high performers use a psychological trick that completely bypasses this resistance. They stop trying to finish the task. They only focus on starting fake progress. This is the fake start method. Instead of telling yourself, I need to study for 3 hours, you say, I'll just open the material for 2 minutes. Instead of, I need to finish the workout, you say, I'll only put my shoes on. Instead of, I need to write the entire project, you say, I'll write 1 paragraph. This sounds almost ridiculous at first. But neurologically, it's extremely powerful because your brain reacts differently when pressure disappears. Researchers observed that large goals activate emotional resistance much faster than small actions. The brain sees the full task as a threat, and immediately searches for escape, but tiny actions feel safe enough to avoid triggering panic or avoidance patterns. And once movement begins, another psychological effect activates automatically. Scientists call it the Zeigarnik effect. The brain hates unfinished actions. When you begin something, your mind naturally wants psychological closure. That's why unfinished tasks stay stuck in your head. The moment progress starts, the brain becomes more likely to continue. This is why starting is often more important than intensity. Action creates momentum. Momentum reduces resistance. And reduced resistance makes continuation easier. High performers understand this deeply. They do not rely on emotional readiness. They engineer movement first, and over time, the brain stops associating difficult tasks with overwhelming pressure because the entry point became painless. That's why this method feels almost unfair. You are not forcing discipline through suffering. You are quietly tricking your brain into motion before fear fully activates. But there's still one final transformation that changes everything permanently. Because real discipline only becomes automatic when you stop seeing yourself as the kind of person who quits. The identity shift that makes discipline automatic. Most people are trying to change their habits without changing the person behind the habits. That's why nothing lasts. Researchers studying behavioral identity discovered that the brain constantly tries to stay consistent with the story you repeat about yourself, not only out loud, but internally. And most people are unknowingly reinforcing weakness every single day. I'm lazy. I never stay consistent. I always quit. I have no discipline. This is just how I am. At first, these sentences sound harmless, but your brain treats repeated self-perception like instructions. The more you repeat an identity, the more your behavior slowly adapts to protect it. That's why people often sabotage their own progress right after improvement starts. Their actions begin conflicting with the identity they carried for years, and the brain hates internal contradiction. So, it pulls them back toward familiar behavior. Researchers observed this pattern constantly in habit formation studies. Long-term change becomes unstable when identity remains attached to the old version of the self. This is why temporary motivation fails. You cannot permanently build the habits of a disciplined person while mentally identifying as someone weak, distracted, or inconsistent. Your standards always return to the level of your identity, and this is where the real transformation begins. Highly disciplined people are not constantly negotiating with themselves because discipline became part of their self-image. Their brain no longer sees productive behavior as punishment. It sees it as normal. That changes everything, because once the mind accepts, I am someone who acts. I finish what I start. I do difficult things even when uncomfortable. Emotional resistance starts weakening automatically. Researchers studying neuroplasticity explain that repeated actions combined with repeated identity reinforcement gradually strengthen new behavioral pathways in the brain. In simple terms, every time you act with discipline, you are proving to your brain that the new identity is real. Not through motivation, through evidence. That's why tiny, consistent wins matter so much. Every completed workout, every distraction resisted, every difficult task finished, every moment you act despite resistance, you are casting votes for a new version of yourself. And eventually, something powerful happens. Discipline stops feeling forced because your brain always works hardest to protect the identity it believes is true. The dangerous part is that this works both ways. If you repeatedly identify as weak, distracted, and lazy, your brain will defend that identity too, which leads to the brutal truth most people spend years avoiding. Every day you procrastinate, you are not only wasting time, you are training your future self to become weaker. The brutal truth about your future. Right now, two versions of you are being created at the same time. One version keeps following impulses, keeps delaying action, keeps choosing comfort over growth, keeps escaping into distraction every time effort appears. And little by little, that version becomes mentally weaker. Researchers studying habit formation explain that the brain is always adapting to repetition. Whatever behavior you repeat consistently becomes easier, faster, and more automatic over time. That means procrastination is not standing still. It's training. Every time you avoid discomfort, your brain learns avoidance. Every time you delay action, hesitation grows stronger. Every time distraction wins, focus becomes weaker. Most people think they have unlimited time to change. Y donde, because habits quietly solidify into identity. And one day, many people wake up realizing they spent years waiting for motivation that never came, consuming content that changed nothing, and watching opportunities disappear while their minds stayed trapped in passive mode. But the other version of you is still possible. The version that controls attention instead of being controlled by it. The version that acts before emotions create excuses. The version that no longer needs constant motivation to move. The version that built discipline strong enough to survive discomfort. And the difference between those two futures is not talent, not intelligence, not luck. It's repeated behavior. Scientists observe that the brain changes according to what you repeatedly do, not what you repeatedly wish for. Your nervous system adapts to action. Confidence adapts to action. Focus adapts to action. Discipline adapts to action. Everything begins with repetition. That means every small decision matters more than you think. Every time you resist distraction, your brain changes. Every time you act, despite resistance, your identity changes. Every time you choose effort over comfort, your future changes. This is why laziness becomes so dangerous. Not because it destroys one day, because it quietly destroys direction. And the terrifying part is that most people never notice the damage until years are gone. So the real question is not whether you feel motivated today. The real question is, what kind of brain are you training every single day? Because your future is being programmed by your repeated actions right now, whether you realize it or not.